Hello, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be doing the fall embroidery class. We want to thank you so much for signing up and for joining us today. We really hope that you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed making it for you. All right, to start off, everybody's going to get a needle. Yours is going to come in a pouch, and then you are also going to get a needle minder. That is what I'm showing you now. Some are wooden, some are enamel. I will show you one of those in just a little bit. So the first one we have is an orange. You can see the number there. A brighter yellow, an olive green color, a brown, then we have a reddish brown, then we have a darker yellow, a brighter pink, and then this nice beige color. Here is one of the enamel pins that I was talking about. So your needle minder is just magnetic and it keeps a hold of your needle for you. So here's our design. It is so fall-like. It is so cute. I'm really excited. You also need a pair of scissors. So the first color we're going to grab is that orange. We're going to take a pretty long bit of it. So one of the best tricks I can think of is to show you is how to string it. So you're just going to pinch it really tight between your fingers so that it kind of flattens out. All of these this entire project uses all 6 strings. So you're just going to pull that through. I like to leave maybe a 7 or 8 inch tail. That's just where I'm comfortable. Then we're going to go to the end and we're going to do a knot. I like to wrap it around my finger and then twist it over itself 2 times. I'm not sure why this is my preferred knot for embroidery, but this is my preferred knot for embroidery. So you can see me struggling a little bit just to get it kind of close to the end. So after we have that nice and secured, we're just going to start stitching. So I've got one row done for you so that you can see what our chain stitch is supposed to look like. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pop up right through the edge there. I had to focus it, sorry. And then in that same stitch, we are going to hold it aside with our thumb. We are going to go straight back down into it. But don't pull it all the way through because you will pull out your stitch that you just made. I like to leave it nice and long while I have a lot of thread. And then you're going to go about 1/4 of an inch down and you are going to make a loop. If it's a little too tight, just pull on it with your needle. Your needle is a great tool for adjusting your string as you go along. So again, we're just going to hold it to the side, and then we are going to go back into that same hole. Just finagle your needle right in between that last stitch. Go down. Oop, sorry, had a knot. Straight up. First thing. Oh, it was a good one. I ended up having to take it out entirely, so we get an instant replay. So, here we are. We're going to come straight back up and back down. And again, these are about 1/4 of an inch long stitches. It just makes them nice and neat and uniform. This chain stitch is what this is called. A chain stitch is a really nice thick stitch. You can make it thinner by doing less strings if you'd like. You can also make it a little bit more cute, I would say, by making it smaller. You can also make it a little bit bigger if that suits your fancy as well. But I find that about 1/4 of an inch stitch with this particular stitch is really nice with 6 strings. It gives really good stitch definition and it is easy and quick to do. Now is a great time to either turn me on mute or listen to an audiobook or the radio or whatever it is you like to do while you keep your hands busy. But I figured that since we're here, that I would read off the synopsis of some of our newest books. So I will tell you the author and the title of the book and read what it is about while you guys continue to work. So without any further ado, the first one that I have, and this is one that I really want to read, is called The Heart Principle by Helen Hong. Excuse me if I say her name absolutely wrong. So here it goes. When violinist Anna Sun accidentally achieves her career success with a viral YouTube video, she finds herself incapacitated and burned out from her attempts to replicate that moment. And when her longtime boyfriend announces that he wants an open relationship before making a final commitment... Quick pause. Here you will see that I just sandwich that next stitch around that other one. I'll show you a close-up here in a second. So it just goes right over top of it. That way it overlaps. Nothing to it. A hurt and angry Anna decides if he wants an open relationship, then so does she. Translation, she's going to embark on a string of one-night stands. The more unacceptable the men, the better. That's where tattooed, motorcycle riding Quan Deep comes in. Their first attempt at a one-night stand fails, as does their second, and their third, because being with Quan is more than the deed. He accepts Anna on an unconditional level that she herself has just begun to understand. However, when tragedy strikes, Anna's family, she takes on a role that she is ill-suited for, until the burdens of expectations threaten to destroy her. Anna and Quan have to fight for their chance at love, but to do that, they also have to fight for themselves. I am a sucker for a romance novel, so do with that what you will. So we are coming up on these last couple of stitches. If you need to and your string gets all wiggly and wobbly, just drop it off to the side and let it unwind itself. So we're going to make that last stitch, but to finish this off, we are going to do what is just a simple stitch, and we are just going to go right down into that fabric. So it makes like a miniature daisy chain right there at the end, but you won't ever notice it because it will be up underneath that next one. So then we're going to turn our work around, and we are going to just make a little knot to tie it off. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And we'll snip it off and move on to our next one. We'll tie it off with that same knot, and we're going to work on that outer corner again so that our middle one will stick up out of the rest of them and lay on top all the way. So again, just that double knot there. Like I said, I'm not really sure why that is my preferred, but it is. So pull it nice and tight. We'll pick up our work, balance it. Sorry, excuse me, I had a hiccup. And then we will pull up and through, just starting another chain. And we will continue to do that all the way down until we get to our spot. On the bottom, it doesn't matter. If you're not perfectly on the line with the stitch, it doesn't matter either. So our next book is called Chasing Shadows by Lynn Austin. Lena is a wife and a mother who farms alongside her husband in the tranquil countryside. Her faith has always been her compass, but can she remain steadfast when the questions grow increasingly complex and the answers could mean the difference between life and death? Lena's daughter Anne has recently moved into the bustling city of London, filled with romantic notions of a new job and a young Dutch police officer. But when she is drawn into resistance work, her idealism collides with the dangerous reality that comes with fighting the enemy. This is a quicker way to do the the chain stitch, where you don't have to like put it all the way through and then stick it up. So you just keep your finger on the back and be careful of those fingers. You could get poked. Miriam is a young Jewish violinist who immigrated for the safety Holland offered. She finds love in her new country, but as her family settles in London, the events that follow will test them in ways that she never imagined. The Nazi invasion propels these women onto paths that cross in unexpected, sometimes heartbreaking ways. Yet the story that unfolds illuminates the surprising endurance of the human spirit and the power of faith and love that carry us through. That one sounds so sweet. Alrighty. Our next one is Stephen King, Billy Summers. Whoop! Billy Summers is a man in a room with a gun. He's a killer for hire and the best in the business, but he'll do the job only if the target is truly a bad guy. And now Billy wants out. First, there is one last hit. Billy is among the best snipers in the world, a decorated Iraq war vet, a Houdini when it comes to vanishing after the job is done. So what could possibly go wrong? How about everything? This spectacularly riveting novel is part war story, part love letter to small-town America and the people who live there, and it features one of the most compelling and surprising duos in King fiction, who set out to avenge the crimes of an extraordinarily evil man. Billy Summers is about luck, love, fate, and a complex hero with one last shot at redemption. You won't put this story down, and you won't forget Billy. Alrighty, sounds very actiony. So I'm still just doing that stitch right there, and it's going pretty quick now. I've got this sped up like 4 times, so you guys don't feel bad about being slower than I am, because I do not stitch this fast at all. I didn't mention it in the beginning, but this project took about 4.5 hours from start to finish for me. So if you're just learning with me for the very beginning, then take it slow, take your time, putting your needle in and finding just the right spot. It's not a race, so it doesn't matter if you get it done today or next week or even next month. Just take your time and make sure that you guys enjoy the process. So coming up, we are going to start on that last little bit. So we've got that last one, we're going in and out, and now is a good time to start another book recommendation. Reading? Whatever you want to call these. So, here we go. Our next one, it came out last month. It's Jude Devereux, An Impossible Promise. These are just the ones that were the newest of the new on our shelves. Liam O'Connor has one purpose in this life, to push the woman he loves into the arms of another man. The Irish rogue unknowingly changed the course of destiny when he fell in love with Cora McLeod over a century ago. Their passion was intense, brief, and tragic. Ooh. And the angels have been trying to restore the balance of fate ever since. Now police officers in Providence Falls, North Carolina, Liam and Cora are partners on a murder investigation. The intensity of the case has drawn them closer together, exactly what Liam is supposed to avoid. The angels have made it clear that Cora must be with Finley Walsh. But headstrong Cora makes her own decisions, and she's starting to have feelings for Liam, the only thing he's ever really wanted. Liam knows that this is his last chance to save his soul, but does he love Cora enough to let her go? I did not do a good job with that one. I'm so sorry. But that took a twist that I had no clue about. Detectives, angels. Wow, that one was intense. So coming up, you'll see that I am running out of thread. So in just a little bit, I am going to have to tie off. So I am just going over those same ones. I'm just kind of sandwiching those ends that we sewed earlier in between those next ones so that our current stitch lays on top of those. So you are almost done with that orange. You guys are doing such a good job. Like, nobody has told you you're doing a good job yet, but you're doing a great job. I can't see you right now, but you're doing a great job. So here's my end. I'm just going to snip that right there and done. So I'm going to put my needle on my needle minder so that I don't lose it and get some more yarn. And so you'll see that I just kind of sandwich it and do all that good stuff. So sorry. This rain has got me all messed up. So we'll flip it over, and then I'm going to come up in between that chain just like we never left. So you'll see we'll just squeak in there, and I take my time getting my needle just right. So we'll pull it up and through. And I didn't get as long of a strand since we don't have as long to go this time. And I've always got my thumb over here to hold onto that chain, so it's a little bit easier. Figured now would be a good time for another book. So, brand new book, we've got Kaleidoscope by Brian Schelznik. And here's the summary. "Go on," he said. "Look through it." I picked up the kaleidoscope and held it to my eye. "It's beautiful," I said. As I turned the kaleidoscope, the mirrors and the colored bits of glass rearranged and fractured the world. "Now, look at me," he said. A ship, a garden, a library, a key. In Kaleidoscope, the incomparable Brian Schelznik presents the story of two people bound to each other through time, space, memory, and dreams. At the center of their relationship is a mystery about the nature of grief and love, which will look different to each reader. Kaleidoscope is a feat of storytelling that illuminates how even the wildest tales can help us in the hardest times. And there is that last stitch, finishing up the orange. If you want, a break is nice now, but we're going to go ahead and move into the green. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take that olive green and just like always put it on our needle. And we are going to crisscross all of these. So take your time putting your needle in. We're just going to cross each one. So I'm going a little bit further down because we are going to cross this all the way down. It's going to end up looking somewhat like a fishtail braid. It is going to be a really pretty texture. As you can see, I tried doing something else first, but it just didn't give the same kind of life to it that I thought it would. So I ended up ripping it all the way out because sometimes you just have to frog it. It just has to happen. Sometimes you just have to tear it all out, and that's fine. That's fine. You've got plenty of thread. It's fine. So you can start to see I am getting that nice cross hatching going on there. When I'm a little bit closer, you can see it better. So I'm doing the points there, and here's a nice close-up so you can see what that cross hatching looks like. And we just continue on that. We're actually going to do this in a 3 parts. You're going to continue all the way down to the base of the leaf, and it's going to be a 3-part. So once that's done, you just pick up with the other points of the leaf and you blend them into that first part. So I've got one more book here, and it's Mary Kay Andrews, The Newcomer. This one came out in May. In trouble and on the run. After she discovers her sister Tanya dead on the floor of her fashionable New York City townhouse, Lita Carnahan is certain she knows who did it. Tanya's ex, sleazy real estate entrepreneur Evan Wingfield. Even in the grip of grief and panic, Letty lets her late sister's warnings, if anything bad happens to me, it's Evan. Promise me you'll take Maya and run. Promise me. With a trunk full of emotional baggage, she grabs her sister's Mercedes and hits the road with her wailing 4-year-old niece, Maya. Letty is determined to outrun Evan and the law, but run where? Tanya, a woman with a past shrouded in secrets, left behind a go bag of cash and a big honking diamond ring. But only one clue. A faded magazine story about a sleepy mom-and-pop motel in a Florida beach town with the improbable name of Treasure Island. She sheds her old life and checks into an uncertain future at the Murmuring Surf Motel. And that's the good news, because the surf, as the regulars call it, is the winter home of a close-knit flock of retirees and snowbirds who regard this odd duck newcomer with suspicion and downright hostility. As Letty settles into the motel's former storage room, she tries to heal Maya's heartache and unravel the key to her sister's shady past, all while dodging the attention of the owner's dangerously attractive son, Joe, who happens to be the local police detective. Continued on the back. Ignore my noises. Can Letty find romance as well as a room at the inn, Or will Joe betray her secrets and put her behind bars? With danger closing in, it is a race to find the truth and the rights and wrongs of the past. Mysterious. So, we are about halfway through our leaf now. Again, just take your time. This is sped up like 4 times its normal speed. If you are not stitching this fast, that is completely normal and completely human. I don't stitch this fast. So, just take your time. Be sure to make sure that your needle goes where you want it to and not just willy-nilly wherever it wants. Your fabric will heal from pretty well anything. All right, let's find another book. I thought I would switch things up a little and find one off of Hoopla. Hoopla is one of our digital services that we offer where you can get free books to check out. So this is one from our Hoopla app, and this one is The Mad Woman's Ball by Victoria Moss. So it says the Salpêtrière Asylum, Paris, 1885. Dr. Charcot, sorry, it's French, holds all of Paris in thrall with his displays of hypnotism on women who have been deemed mad and cast out from society. But the truth is much more complicated. These women are often simply inconvenient, unwanted wives, those who have lost something precious, wayward daughters, or girls born from adulterous relationships. For Parisian society, the highlight of the year is the Lenten Ball, the Mad Woman's Ball, when the great and good come to gawk at the patience of the Salpêtrière, dressed up in their finery for only one night. For the women themselves, it is a rare moment of hope. Guinevere is a senior nurse after the childhood death of her sister Baleine. She shunned her religion and placed her faith in both the celebrated psychiatrist Dr. Charot and science, but everything begins to change when she meets Eugene, the 19-year-old daughter, born of a bourgeois family that has locked her away in the asylum. Because Eugene has a secret, she sees spirits. Inspired by the scandalous banned works that all of Paris is talking about, the Book of Spirits, Eugene is determined to escape from the asylum and the bonds of her gender and seek out those who will believe in her, and for that she will need Genevieve's help. All right. That one sounds really interesting, and we are finishing up our leaf here. So that was that olive green color. You can really use any color. If you'd rather use like that dark orange or something like that, or I said dark orange, that dark red, that would also look really stunning on this. But for today, we're going to use green. So there we are, all done. And now we are going to move on, and we are going to move on to the wheat. So it's 543, that's the number, if you guys didn't get one of these kits. So there's our wheat. We're going to start it from the back, and we're going to do what's called a back stitch. So we're going to go up and back down just like a normal stitch that you would do. These are a little bit longer, they're about 1/4 of an inch. And then we are going to go up about 1/4 of an inch, and then go backwards into that same downwards hole that we just made. And that's why it's a back stitch, because we go backwards. And on the bottom it does something like a split stitch on the back, but just kind of a haphazard split stitch. So we're going to do that a couple more times. Here's me putting it a little bit better to see. All right. And back stitch. Oh my goodness, my allergies today. Took some medicine, but. And back stitching another time, and we are going to do just a couple of more. And this same easy stitch is pretty well what we're going to do this entire time. It's just going to be a bunch of simple stitches from here on out. This is the last back stitch we're going to do until we get to the next side. So then we're just going to start on our fluffy parts, and we are going to just go right on in. You can kind of cross them over that center line to help cover it up. This pattern is completely washable afterwards, so even if you don't get it exactly on the line, you won't be able to see it because your embroidery pattern will wash right off once you guys get done. And that's it. We're going to speed it up, and I'm going to read you another book summary. This one is Canary in the Coal Mine, and it's by William Cook, MD. So, we've got one doctor's courageous fight to save a small town from a silent epidemic that threatened the community's future and exposed a national health crisis. When Dr. Will Cook, an idealistic young physician just out of medical training, set up practice in the small rural community of Austin, Indiana, he had no idea that much of the town was being torn apart by poverty, addiction, and life-threatening illnesses. But he soon found himself at a crossroads of two unprecedented healthcare disasters, a national opioid epidemic and the worst drug-fueled HIV outbreak ever seen in rural America. So, we are getting to a point where we are about done with our fluffy part. I've got just a few more stitches. Again, this is a very, very sped up video. And we are going to go back into those back stitches and do a twisted stitch. So here you'll see I'm very careful going back up into that first stitch, well, that last back stitch that we did, and it'll be our first one that we do. So you want to choose one way that you're going to poke your needle in. I chose straight up, and you're just going to lace that underneath and then lace it up underneath the next one, and when you pull, it makes a very nice raised line. This is really great for like lettering and stuff like that too. And we've got nearly to the last one. And to finish that off, we're just going to go straight down into our fabric. We are then going to go on to that next one. We don't have to cut it and tie it or anything like that, though I did tie it in between just to make sure that my knots wouldn't come out, but they won't. But I'm paranoid like that. And so we're just going to do that back stitching. And last one. And then we are going to make it fluffy again. Make it very fluffy. Again, if some of your pattern is showing, that's fine. You're going to wash this out at the end. And while we wait for me to very speedily sew, I've got Milk Blood Heat by Daniel W. Montez. Milk Blood Heat depicts the sultry lives of Floridans in intergenerational tales that contemplate human connection, race, womanhood, inheritance, and the elemental darkness in all of us. Set among the cities and suburbs. Oops, sorry. This is a hoopla book again. Set among the cities and suburbs of Florida, each story delves into the ordinary worlds of young girls, women, and men who find themselves confronted by extraordinary moments of violent personal reckoning. These intimate portraits of people and relationships scour and soothe and blast a light on the nature of family, faith, forgiveness, consumption, and what we may or may not owe one another. That sounds fun. It was I found this one because it is one of the celebrity book club books on Hoopla. Yes, on Hoopla. If you guys have trouble setting up Hoopla, you can always give us a call, and we would be more than happy to help you with your Hoopla needs. So we are just going through and doing that twisted stitching again, and with that we are done with that, and we are moving on to the stem. So we're using that brown, it's 975. And we're just going to start over here at the corner. So this one I'm going to take a long time to explain and move my needle minder because it was in the way. Alright, and so it's going to be a longer stitch. Think like half of an inch or so. And then we are going to go back in halfway through that stitch and come up in the middle. So you're just going to use your thumb to hold it out of the way if you want to do that. You can also tighten it up and then go halfway between that stitch. But I like holding it out of the way. Alright, and then we are going to make about an inch long stitch again. But then once we get all the way down, we are going to come up through that exact same hole that we went down in that first time. Not right there. I put my needle through wrong. Like I said, your fabric will heal from just about anything. So here I am trying to show you right there. And we're going to go up through there. And we're going to pull that tight. And it makes a very nice texture. If you get any issues, just kind of pick them out slowly. Alright. And then we're going to do that exact same thing. We're going to hold that to the side. We're going to go about a half an inch. And then kind of do something similar to that back stitch that we did. But since it's long and it overlaps, it's called the stem stitch. It's slightly different, but still very easy and very doable. And again, you guys are doing a great job. If you guys haven't taken a break, I would suggest it. And down and through. We are coming up on this little bitty loop-de-loop here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my stem stitches much, much shorter. So I'm going to go ahead and do that regular one going into it. And then I'm going to shorten my stitch so that it is a little bit more precise. So I will go from having about a half an inch each stitch to getting it down so that I can to maybe about a fourth of an inch so that I can make that little loop-de-loop because it is very tiny. And so I just went ahead and ended that stem stitch right there by just going straight down into it, since I realized that it was not going to do what I wanted it to. And then I'm just going to go over a little bit, not in that exact same hole so you don't pull it out. So I'll show you that I go over just a teeny tiny bit, just a couple of fabric hairs away to come up. And so that I don't accidentally pull my stitch that I just made out. So like I said, it's just a couple of fabric strings away. And then I'm going to continue that stem stitch. It's much easier on the larger loop to do this. So this is the hard one. I know, right there at the beginning. You just make them kind of small, and that will be just fine. Alrighty, and now we're going to go back to Hoopla. We are going to do another Celebrity Book Club book that you can read on Hoopla. This one is Searching for Selfie Lee by Jean Kwok, Kwok, Kwok. It has got many, many awards and things. It says, it begins with a mystery. Selfie, the beautiful, brilliant, successful older daughter of the Lee family, flies to the Netherlands for one final visit with her dying grandmother and then vanishes. Amy, the sheltered baby of the Lee family, is too young to remember a time when her parents were newly immigrated and too poor to keep Selfie. 7 years older, Selfie was raised by a distant relative in a faraway foreign place and didn't rejoin her family in America until the age 9. Timid and shy, Amy always looked up to her sister, the fierce and fearless protector who showered her with unconditional love. But what happened to Selfie? Amy and her parents are distraught and desperate for answers. Selfie has always looked out for them, and now it's Amy's turn to help. Terrified yet determined, Amy retraces her sister's movements, flying to the last place Selfie was seen. But instead of simple answers, she discovers something much more valuable: the truth. Selfie, the golden girl, kept painful secrets. Secrets that will reveal more about Amy's complicated family and herself than she could have ever imagined. This is a deeply moving story of family, secrets, identity, and longing. Searching for Selfie Lee is a gripping page-turner and a sensitive portrait of an immigrant family. It is a profound exploration of the many ways culture and language can divide us, and the impossibility of ever truly knowing someone, especially those we love. That one sounds incredible. I need to add that to my favorites list right away. So, as you see, we're just continuing along. I think I got a knot in the back of my work here. So, instead of ripping out all of that work, I figured that since it was a pretty big knot and didn't actually hurt anything, I would just tie it up and snip it so that it wouldn't get in the way. So we're coming down on this last portion of it. So there's that last stitch in that. And these next couple ones are real simple. And like I said, you just see me tying that and getting it out of the way so I don't accidentally bring it up in another stitch. So each of these little ones will just require 2, maybe 3 of these stem stitches. I think it makes it look a little bit like wood, and I think it makes it look really nice. If you really wanted to, you could fill the entire thing in with these stem stitches. I think that would be really, really pretty, but that is not what we have going on with ours today. But if you wanted to in the future, then feel more than welcome. This is your project. I'm just giving you some basic instructions. All right, so we've got that last little bit done. So now I'm going to go up and through some of these on the back because there's a couple of spots that I would just like to fix. So you can see right there, my stitch isn't quite staying where I want it to. So I'm just going to go up and put a simple little stitch in right there at the base. I'm going to focus on that. That way it just stays where I want it to. And then I'm going to go over to that smaller one and just, again, some of them just aren't staying where I'd like them to. So I'm just going to put in a little bitty teeny tiny baby stitch to cover up that white part and to get the other stitch to stay where I want it to. After that, we are done with the stem. Next, we're going to go in with the back petals. We're going to go in with that darker yellow so it looks like those petals are kind of shadowed. So we're going to do what's called a lazy daisy stitch. And so it's just like that chain stitch where you go up and down through that same one, but instead of doing another chain right on top, remember how we ended it, where we just put a small baby stitch on top, we are going to do that, and that's called the lazy daisy stitch. But we're going to make it slightly modified this particular time because you can see that that leaves a lot of white space in the back. We don't really want that. We want these petals to be really nice and full. So we are going to go back up in the middle right there. I go a little down and towards the center of those just so it's a little elongated and makes kind of a oval, and then go back in to that baby stitch. And that way we fill in the middle there. This one's a little exaggerated, and if you don't like the way the petals or the chain is laying, then you can always move it around with your needle. So we're going to do one more really nice and slow. We're going to go up through the fabric and make a loop and just hold it with your thumb. And that way. And then again, up through there. And that baby stitch on top to lock it in place. And one up through the center to fill in our white spot. I think this is really, really sweet. This petal is definitely the way that one's supposed to look. So the first one was a little exaggerated, but this one looks just right. It looks like just like a sunflower petal. So we're going to continue that all the way around. Here's a quick shot. I figured you guys were tired of me going so slowly. So baby, this is sped up like 4 times. And again, another big jump. I'm sorry that I am out of frame. I didn't think that I was. So I'm just finishing up some of those. As you can see, I did 2 huge jumps. You are welcome to listen to music or watch a movie or do anything else other than listen to me talk incessantly during this video. So now we're going to go in with that brighter yellow. We're going to do that exact same stitch. I'm just finding anywhere to start. So the exact same stitch, we're going to do that lazy daisy stitch with the center stitch. We are going to go around 1 time. You do not have to worry about filling in all of the spots. So if some of them get filled in all the way to the middle circle, that's cool. If they don't, that's cool too, because we're going to do a 3rd round of petals once we get our roses done, so that it looks like they're all fluffy and bouquet-y and overlapping. I know that was a really awful description. So again, we are going to do some big leaps here. I figure you're tired of me talking. But just as a side note, what do you guys think about a hoopla book club? I think it sounds kind of fun. But again, just big leaps, and you can see that I'm not filling in all the spaces. I know that we're going to do a 3rd round of petals, so just put them wherever you feel is necessary, and I'm sure it will turn out beautiful. So here we are on that last one, and we are going to get ready to do our first rose. So you can actually put this color in either of the rose spots, but I chose on the top spot just because I thought it would be cute. But either way is fine. So we're going to make 5 simple stitches, so just up and down. And you want them to be somewhat evenly spaced around your circle. So we've got the second one here. And up. If you can't see it, just kind of imagine where it would be. If it's not a perfect circle, it is not a big deal. And if it interrupts one of your petals, that's also not a big deal. We want these to look like they are integrated together a little bit. And our 4th, oh, a little bit of a knot there. I had to take some time to detangle it. And number 5 coming up. So you're going to end on a downward spot. So you're just going to come up anywhere in there. So I just chose right in the middle of those 2. And you're going to go over and under. So I went under that first one. I'm going to go over this one, though my string doesn't want to show me. A good tip for this, especially since we have so many other strings, is to turn it however you need to, and to use your middle finger to kind of poke up that little button rose. That's what this is called. It's called a button rose because it looks like a little button and they're so cute. And you're just going to alternate over and under, over and under. So it definitely needs 5 so that it has all of the over under oddness that it needs. It has to be an odd number. You could even probably do 7 if you really wanted to, but I would recommend keeping it at 5 for something so small. I think these are so cute. I try to include them on everything now. One of the important things is to not pull these too tight. And once we get to an ending spot, what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of go in at an angle and just make some extra petals. So again, don't pull them too tight. They're supposed to be kind of loose and fluffy and petal-like. And we're just going to go at an angle and add petals until we think that it's right. This is very much intuition based. If you think it doesn't have enough petals, then add some more. If you think it has just the right amount, then you're good. But that just hides those outside stitches a little bit. And you can see here how I'm coming up underneath it and then down diagonally. And I'm going to add just a few more. Like I said, it's all intuition based. If you think it needs more petals, go for it. And this is your cute little button rose. And that if you think it needs, and I think this is my last one. I'm showing you how I come up at an angle. That way it looks like it's from the base of a flower and go down at an angle. So next we are going to go up through the middle and do a teeny tiny little knot. So what I do is I make a loop and put it on my needle and then pull my loop tight and then pull that down through. Don't worry, I will show you this again on our next one, and you will become very familiar with this one by the end of this project. The entire middle of the sunflower is made up of this. We are going to do the exact same thing again on this red rose. It's a really dark red color. It's really nice. If you have any leftover string left over from this one, it's a good idea to keep it. If you don't have leftover string from this one, that's fine too. We can always cut off more. And so we're going to, again, make those 5. We're tugging. Those 5 stitches to go over and under. Three. 4. If it's not perfectly centered, also not a big deal. It just kind of looks like the flower is facing a certain way. Slightly. Alright, coming up through the middle, going over and under. I always like to go under first. That's just my personal preference. Be careful of getting anything on there. Again, use your middle finger to kind of poke it up through the fabric. That way it's easier to get to it. And we are going at supersonic speed. Super duper sonic. And again, we're just going to go up through the sides and create a couple of little outside petals to cover up those stitches. Just kind of blend that into the rest of everything going on. You can use your needle to kind of poke out those petals. Scoots. And we're going to get really close here. I'm going to show you how to do that knot again. So I just make a little loop, just like that, and poke it down through. I think watching that string go in is so satisfying. Okay, and that flower is done. Now we're going to go back in with that yellow, and here I'm just filling in any white spots. So we're going to go in with that same stitch that we've been using for the entire flower. We are just going to fill in any extra spots. Guys, you have come so far. I know this project personally took me like 2 days to complete. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like sitting in one spot for 4 or 5 hours at a time. I like to break it up a little bit. But so this next one, you will see that I'm going into that red flower because I want their petals to be entwined. And then we do that last stitch. Just checking on the back there. Sometimes it'll feel like if you've got too much string in one spot, it'll be kind of hard to get through. But you just push a little harder and it normally gives way. So now we're just going to continue filling in those white spots all the way around. And once you get done with that, then we will start on the middle spot. So here's a very sped up version. While we wait, we've got Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This is one of those celebrity book club books off of Hoopla. Lillian and Madison were unlikely roommates, yet inseparable friends at their elite boarding school. But then Lillian had to leave the school unexpectedly in the wake of a scandal, and they've barely spoken since. Until now, when Lillian gets a letter from Madison pleading for her help. Madison's twin stepkids are moving in with her family, and she wants Lillian to be their caretaker. However, there's a catch. The twins spontaneously combust when they get agitated. Flames like igniting from their skin in a startling but beautiful way. And Lillian is convinced Madison is pulling her leg, but it's the truth. My goodness. Thinking of her dead-end life at home, the life that has consistently disappointed her, Lillian figures she has nothing to lose. Over the course of one humid, demanding summer, Lillian and the twins learn to trust each other and stay cool, while also staying out of the way of Madison's buttoned-up political husband. Surprised by her own ingenuity, yet unused to the intense feelings of protectiveness she feels for them, Lillian begins to ultimately accept that she needs these strange children as much as they need her. And couldn't this be the start of the amazing life she had always hoped for? That is alarming. I can't imagine if my child just spontaneously burst into flames whenever she got angry. I bet as a 2-year-old, they were just constantly on fire. Whew, Lord, that would be troublesome. I don't know that my house would survive. I think I have too much combustible things. So now we're going back in with that same brown from the stem. I'm going to show you. We're just going to do that same stitch that we did in the middle of the roses. It's a little knot. It's a French knot, but there's a couple of different ways to do a French knot. But this is my favorite way, and I can pull them tight without them coming undone. So I just make a little loop. You can also make that little loop with your needle, but I just wanted to show it. And I always go like a couple of hairs, fabric spaces away, and then pull it through. And oh, that's nice to watch. Love watching the needle come in. It's like one of those strangely satisfying videos that you watch on YouTube where like the pasta noodle maker cuts off the pasta. So again, we're just going to speed it up. This takes a while, but you are so close to being done. You guys are doing such a great job. So we're just going to continue to fill that in, and we're going to do a quick jump here in just a second. and I'm just adding a couple of last ones. So next we're going to take that red. If you remember that smaller circle that was in the middle, you can just kind of imagine it in your mind's eye. We're going to take that same red that we used on that rose, and we are going to make some more of those. That way they're a little bit raised up, but it's going to be just a slight differentiation of color, and it is going to look beautiful at the end. So like I said, I just had some left over from that rose, so I just put it on there again. That way I wasn't wasting any yarn or thread. I just had enough on hand. If you guys didn't have enough, that's perfectly fine. You can cut off a new string. But like I said, I just had some left over. So there's our first one. You can kind of see that it's raised up a little bit more than the rest of them. And you see me making the knot with my needle there. I just kind of spin it around. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it takes me a few tries. And sometimes it likes to knot up like this, and we just very gently pull on it until it decides that it wants to cooperate. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do, the string just doesn't want to cooperate. And we don't have too much longer to go now. Again, me and the string are kind of fighting today. All right. Along with my allergies. Can't breathe the air. Fighting with string, fighting the allergies, sure, why not? And then just a couple of random stitches. All right, so we're going to tie that up and then take a moment to admire what we've done, because we have just completed a very long project. So take a minute to admire it. You have done a great job. And so we're just going to do some close-up and just, like I said, just admire all the hard work that we've done together. You can still see my embroidery pattern, but that's okay. So there's two ways to finish this. Both of them kind of require trimming off some of this excess fabric. So I'm just going to trim it around the edges. I leave a little bit of space. You can either do a running stitch, which is that one that just like goes in and out of the fabric, and just kind of tie it up that way and finish it that way. Or you can do what I'm going to do, which is hot glue it. So I make sure that my piece is where I want it. This is a great time to wash your pattern out if you're going to. I chose not to. This one's just going to be on display in the library. Make sure that your fabric is tight, that way your stitches look their best. And scrunch it up. So here's my handy dandy glue gun here. And I'm just going to hot glue it onto the inside here, just like that. Just gonna press it onto the inside. So you don't want to get it on the fabric itself. You want to make sure that you get it right on the embroidery hoop. So this is going to be super fast. And be careful of your fingers. The fabric protects it some, but not all the way. So, and then huge skip forward. I'm finishing up here. And done. Thank you so much. If you guys completed this project, we would love to see it. If you can leave a picture of it on our Facebook, we would really like to see it. Thank you guys so much for participating, and we cannot wait to see what you made.